Hi friends, today this video is going to go over exponents. An exponent is the little number up on the top of another number. So we call this 2 would be called the base, and the 3 would be called the exponent. Now, when we read this as 2 to the third power. When we see something like this, what it really means is 2 multiplied by itself 3 times. So 2 times 2 times 2, 1, 2, 3 of them, which would be written as just 8. Now, an exponent is just a fancy way to write repeated multiplication, and in a case like 2 to the third power, it's fine to write 3 2's out. That's no big deal. But if we have more than 3 or we have several things being raised to another power, it can get very long. And so we use exponents as a shortcut for writing this. All right. So we always read it as the base to the power, so 2 to the third. We don't want to confuse that with 2 times 3, which is a very different thing. So let's look at some examples and different ways that we might see exponents. So if I had 5 squared, or 5 to the second power, this would just be 5 times 5, which is 25. Now, on your calculator, you will see a button. It's called the caret button, but you might see it as it's just a little triangle-y thing. And so 5 squared would be written as 5 caret 2. And it's not like carrot like Bugs Bunny eats. It's caret more like a diamond measurement. And this would give you 25 on your calculator. And most exponents that you're going to deal with, you can put into the calculator, but we want to be really careful about how we do that. So here's an example that could be a little bit tricky. If I have -4 squared. Now, if I have -4 squared, this is -4 times -4. 2 negatives make a positive, so this would be positive 16. So if you put that into your calculator, you want to be really careful that those parentheses go around the -4 to show that the negative is also squared and not just the 4. Compare that to negative of 4 squared. Those are 2 different things. This negative, I like to say this is a decorative negative, okay? It is not getting squared. This is not attached to the 4 because there's no parentheses here. So this would be the negative of 4 times 4, which would be the negative of 16. And sometimes it helps to even write that word of in there. Negative of 4 times 4. Because we don't have any parentheses telling us that the negative got squared too. Now, the last video talked about fractions. So we can have exponents on fractions as well. So let's say that I had 1/2 and it was raised to the third power. Now I could write this out as 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. And we know how to multiply fractions. So we could multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom and get 1/8. Here's another way we could do it though. We can rewrite 1/2 cubed as 1 cubed over 2 cubed. Cubed is just another way to say to the third power. All right, 1 to the 3rd power would be 1 times 1 times 1, which is also just 1. 2 to the 3rd power we've encountered a couple times, and we know that that is 8. So either one works, but often this method is what you're going to be using because the numbers are going to be too large to just write out. All right, let's look at another one. What if I had 2/3 and I was going to square it? So we could rewrite this as 2 squared over 3 squared. 2 to the 2nd power would be 2 times 2, which is 4. 3 to the 2nd power would be 3 times 3, which is 9. So 2/3 squared would be 4/9. One thing that gets kind of funny that we just have to memorize is that anything to the 0 power is equal to 1. So if I had 7 to the 0 power, this would be equal to 1. 12 to the 0 power, 1. 2 to the 0 power, 1. 1 out of 362 raised to the 0 power, 1. So that's just one that we need to memorize so that when we see that come up, we know to just substitute 1 in.